This is the motherboard to a Game Boy Advance SP, and the reason I've taken it apart is because it would read a game sometimes and not other times. It was just really sporadic on whether or not it would work for reading Game Boy Advance games. I could always get it to read a Game Boy Color game. I don't really know what I was looking for when I started examining the motherboard, but something did stand out to me. Right next to the cartridge slot, there's this component here that has a lot of sloppy soldering going on. So someone has messed with this at some point in time. I've never messed with one of those. I don't even know what it was. I had to look it up. Well, it was the SW13 component on a Game Boy Advance SP. And what I found out is that that is the piece of hardware on the circuit board that tells the system what type of game cartridge is put in. So that thing, having rework done on it and possibly being faulty, makes perfect sense why the system was having a hard time reading games. I didn't know what kind of game was being put in it. So I'm going to take that part off, replace it with the donor, and everything should be peachy. I want you to understand the very basic function of this switch. So the way that this switch works is if the switch doesn't move, it tells the system that it's a Game Boy Advance game. And if it does move, like that, it tells it that it's a Game Boy original or Game Boy Color game. Here we go, putting a Game Boy Advance game in. And you'll notice that it didn't move. And the reason it didn't move is because there's a little notch in the plastic right there that slides right over that switch. A Game Boy Color game does not have that notch. So when we put that in, you're going to see that hit that switch. That tells the system whether it's Game Boy Advance or original Game Boy Color, which enables different hardware parts on the system. A faulty switch is why it wasn't working before, and now it should work fine. This newfound knowledge, I want you to take your Game Boy Advance and take a look inside your game slot where you can see that switch that you never knew was there before. I think this is a pretty uncommon problem, but if your Game Boy has that problem, you know now how to fix it or who to send it to, and we can fix it for you. That would be DVD Game Exchange in Orem, Utah, dvdgameexchange.com.